Welcome to another edition of the Motley Croc Show. Let's see what we got here. The date is September 14th. We've got a couple different topics. Matter of fact, we will be talking about, I'm researching a recent story about, I guess a doctor was trying to deliver a baby and put the forceps in and then went to turn around to help move the baby out and pulled the baby's head off. And then nobody knew about that. Which is pretty scary. So I'm going to get the rest of that story until the funeral. I guess I didn't know about it until the funeral, which was odd. So we definitely want to get into that. We're waiting on my sister. She said she was doing her bangs. I'm not sure if anybody else can join us tonight. It was a very odd day. It seems like nobody was able to come in. They were a little busy. Jeff got called into work. He's always here. Jimmy was getting caught up with some stuff. And I think Brett is, he's 2 or 3 hours behind us, 2 hours behind us, I think. And, he was stuck at work. It's just that time of year. Brittany was fixing her bank. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that. And then there's some other stuff I want to touch on. Later on in the show, I'm going to bring in Craig Warren. He's going to come in and talk a little bit. He was looking up some stuff about some, I want to say, celebrity cover-ups or whatever. There was, not to get too deep into the conspiracy theory because that's not something we really want to get into deep. But they were painting. There were articles apparently before the fire started of celebrities painting their house an odd color blue, and nobody knew why. Now, that could be made up, it could be fake or whatever, but I'd really like to get into a little bit of that, and maybe we could look at it and really try to check that stuff out. And I'll see where she's at now, and I'll pull up that article, and we'll get started on that. Let's see here. Anyways, so we're definitely going to do that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. Hey, Judy, how you doing? I see you're here. Still waiting on Bumblebee. Awesome. But I hope that everybody got the right stuff, and I will make sure. Let's see. She said she's signing in. I should have that. Great. We're popping up there. We'd like to get her started because there's some stuff I want to talk about with Brittany for sure, and definitely do that. So how's everybody else's Halloween going? HHN 32 has been going on. I've got some feedback to Halloween Horror Nights that now this is what I hear. Could be right or wrong. And you know me, I'm a Halloween fanatic. I've started the decorations now. This is the week we're starting it. So, I said I'm started. I got a couple things up, nothing major, but so I'm starting the decor. I'll be sending out invitations again to, my party. And we're going to, let's see. Oh, good. So I got more info on that. I want to talk a little bit more about that. We got to, what's up, Beginners God? How are you doing? And so I know that, they've got Halloween Horror Nights going on. They said that the streets weren't that great, but some of the houses were really, really done well. And I think that we need to definitely group up. Like Jeff said last week, we'll get together and we'll kind of touch base and get out there and do that kind of stuff. And I think that'd be one of those really fun trips we could all put together. Anything else cool topic-wise we can touch on? If we are, put them in the comments. Let's definitely chat a little bit. I really want to touch on this other stuff here. And let's see. Is everybody able to log in? Are you guys there? What's going on? Let's see here. Sorry, guys. I mean to hold you up, but we're going to check it out. Let's see. Come on. You can log in. Here we go. Make sure everybody's got it. Sorry about the delay, folks. It's just there's been a lot going on. And even the storms have been weird. And sometimes, like earlier today when we were setting up, I was putting up in here and my Wi-Fi kicked off for like no reason, which is, I have no idea. We don't have any storms over us now. I guess there was some out in Lake County. But sometimes they get really kind of messed up a little bit there, too. Brittany's trying. I think she's here. Hey, B, what's up?
Hey.
You were trying too. Like, I don't know. It was weird. Like, everybody was done. Michael Forster, what's going on?
Hi, Michael. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to get in through. I had to open up 2 new Google boxes just so that I could open.
Well, I was trying to hold on. We started off strong. There was we had a good bunch of viewers, and then it just went to one. Everybody's like, fuck him. We don't care about him. Brittany's not on. We don't want to see him. Fuck him.
Whatever. I'm sure that's not it.
But it's okay. We do it for us. I was talking about Craig's going to come on in a little bit and talk with us a little bit about some stuff that, he was researching. Not that I think that he believes in it or doesn't believe in it, but just some stuff that he was looking into. He said he would like to talk about a little bit, which would be kind of cool.
Well, Craig always says,
hey, Brittany.
Huh?
Michael, he said, hey, Brittany.
Oh, yeah. I said hi to him when I got on. Yeah, Craig sends me funny things. I know that he sent one that was like, he's like, I know you'll get a kick out of this one, but it was like that Bigfoot slide that had like the slides coming out of the chest of the Bigfoot. I was like, where do you find
like it was like the nipples? You're like, why would you build a slide coming out of a Bigfoot's nipples? No, I've seen that. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I was like, Greg, why did you send this to me? And he's just like, or where did you find this? And he was like, I don't know, but as soon as I saw it, I thought of you.
Yeah, but don't you think though, like sometimes, like seriously, when you think like if you were going to design a slide for children,
I wouldn't do that.
would you really climb in the butt of the Bigfoot and shoot out the nipples? I don't know that was really well done, to be honest.
I wasn't. I would like to know where that statue is, because that's I can't see that being here.
So I want to touch on an interesting story. I have it right here, Brittany. It's a rough one. It's a rough one, but I think it deserves a little bit of talking about. So I'm going to explain a little bit. Family. I'm going to give you guys the title. It says family sues Georgia doctor after baby was decapitated during delivery. Lawsuit. So let me tell you what happened. From what I'm gathering here, and what I'll do is, Brittany, I'll forward the article because first of all, I understand shit like that happens.
Probably best that you don't.
Well, it's not a graphic article as more so as it is just so you have, so you can kind of see. So the doctor was trying to, I guess how sometimes the babies get stuck on their side or they get, backwards in the birth canal or whatever, and they use forceps and they try to turn the baby around. While he was doing that, he decapitated the baby inside the mother. Think he realized it. Then they performed a C-section, but didn't tell the parents why the baby was dead. Right? I guess apparently, according to this article right here, I just sent it to you, they didn't find out about the decapitation until the funeral when they were trying to put the body back together. And then the doctor who did the autopsy, I almost said necropsy because I work with animals, the autopsy together, exploited it and put it up on the thing. So, I mean, listen, we know that mistakes are made. We understand that that's why you have insurance. Now, I don't think the doctor was going in there purposely to remove the child's head. He just was a little strong with the forceps and he pulled it off. But he didn't notify the parents.
Really strong though. That's like super strong. Like, how hard were you really pulling? That sounds to me lax on the doctor's part of like, I'm just trying to rush this birth and get on to the next thing. Personally, like that's what it sounds like to me. And by doing so, he killed the infant in the process. Like that's
which is horrible. And I have a theory of, what happens in life happens in life. We know that sometimes we're supposed to live and sometimes we're
more than horrible. That is.
So I can kind of tell you a little bit about, let's see here. It says the plaintiff, 20-year-old, I don't need to put her name out there. You can look it up. It was a Southern Regional Medical Center hospital in Riverdale, Georgia, where she went in labor and her first child on July 9th. The medical malpractice lawsuit filed in the state of court, Clayton County, shows this. Riverdale suburb, South Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta, International, part of the Atlanta, whatever. It's just going to go into it. Taylor, I want to get into the actual part of what happened. The lawsuit, gross negligence. They want to say that it's gross negligence. According to the suit, which alleges gross negligence, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The baby got stuck during the delivery, but at St. Julian showed a surgical procedure and failed to speak up quickly. The family of the doctor replied, excessive force on the baby's head and neck to try to deliver it. The attorney represented the family is also a physician. So 3 hours, blah, blah, blah. You guys can look into it. So long story short, here we go. The lawyer based in Atlanta said the C-section removed the baby's legs and body, but the head was delivered vaginally. Now, the doctor knows that he pulled the head through that woman's vagina, then went and put her into a C-section to deliver the rest of the body. I think, and nobody said, hey, we've just pulled the head of the child out. We have a problem. I mean, obviously, when you're like, right? The head's off. Right there, it's done. It's over. You need to start talking. But they covered it up and then put the woman in surgery. Why wouldn't they have just reached back in with the forceps and pulled the rest of the body out? Now, why put her through all that? Why?
My whole question is, why didn't they just, what I don't understand is, first of all, forceps seems like such an old procedure.
Here's what we finish. I want to finish this. This is a Halloween Horror Nights thing. So when they wrap the baby up tightly, as nurses do, you've given birth to hold the baby, they prop the baby's head on top of the blanket to make it appear like the head was attached when it wasn't.
Oh, God.
So Edmondson, they asked for a C-section earlier at the time when the child could have lived, but they were denied. So they asked for a C-section, and they were denied it. Then some unfortunate parents' dreams and hopes turned into a nightmare, and it was all covered up by the regional medical center. So
I would go for his head. Sorry. No pun intended, but I would go after that doctor with everything in me.
Seeks unspecified punitive damages, which I should. And so the next story after this is a 12-year-old rescues a drowning man from a swimming pool. It has 11 views. The baby getting the head pulled off has 896,000 views. So that just shows you we like catastrophe. So that was kind of think about we're coming in. What a spin. We're coming into a horrible type of season. That is something you'd see in a horror movie.
Yeah.
So the doctors with the nurse, like, how did you plan on covering it up that you just pulled this child's head off? Right? And the nurses are like, okay, doc, let's just sit the bloody thing and tuck it on the blanket and wrap it up. How are you okay with yourself? Then to cover it up, how are you okay with yourself? It was a regular doctor. Now, I know that most doctors that perform childbirth or abortion doctors, etc., they can do a lot of that kind of stuff, right? So hold on one second. I'm going to bring in one of our favorites here, Craig Warren. What's up, buddy? How are you?
What's happening?
Well, we're talking about the story where those people, if you were listening, that they went to have their baby and they were denied a C-section, and the doctor went in with forceps and pulled the child's head off, then tucked the child's head back on top of the body. I'm going to forward you the article right now, Craig, so you can catch up on it. Put that back on the body to show the parents it didn't specify why the baby was stillborn. So there's a lawsuit. Then after they pulled the head off, Craig, they decided to do a C-section to pull the rest of the body out, but didn't tell the people that the head already had come out. They didn't find out till the funeral. I would be. You both have children. What the fuck was that?
What did they think it was stillborn before they tried to deliver it, or they was stillborn because they pulled his head off?
I'm sorry, it was alive. It was just backwards. So they put the forceps to turn them around. They were trying to turn the baby around, and he pulled the baby's head right off, pulled it out through the vagina in the forceps. Then said, we can't get the baby out. We need to do a C-section on you, emergency C-section, which they were denied for before the removing of the child's head.
Which is so stupid.
Then they
what was the reasoning for that?
Then did the umbilical cord, wrap the body up. I just read the article. Then place the head on top of the body, wrap the blanket tight. You know how they look all pudgy like that?
Yeah.
Then, well, it's not breathing. Oh, and they ran out of the room. So right there, you should say, I've just removed the head. I'm sorry. But you can't. I don't know how you cover that up. You have to say, I fucked up. I mean, we know it's going to happen. Maybe the baby had a weak neck. I don't know. The baby might not have been strong enough physically. We're all born different. Brittany was born 10 fucking pounds. She was 10.
I was not 10. I was 9 too.
10 fucking pounds coming out of my mother. That's a lot of meat being pulled out of there. Maybe your neck could handle it, but maybe this baby had a little neck, or maybe the bones weren't fused all the way. I don't know. We know that decapitation was the cause, but I don't know exactly how bad it was or wasn't.
That just, again, like I said, first of all, first question is, why is she denied a cesarean?
The hospital covered it up, correct.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, nowadays they almost would prefer you to have a cesarean. I mean, that was like not even a question with any of my deliveries based off my size and the size of my children. It was like, we'll just do a cesarean. Not a big deal. No problem. Especially like in the medical practice field, if a child is in what they consider like distress, even upside down, not in the correct position, there is no vaginal birth after this. You are immediately moved into having a cesarean, like to have the baby removed, because they're concerned about the reposition of the baby, and it's easier to get it out through a cesarean. So I'm extremely confused on why she was denied for this if the baby was not in the correct position for birthing. And then on top of that, it tells me that during the force of a contraction, he didn't wait for the contraction. So on top of the muscles contracting to push the baby is when he probably grabbed the head. And that's when the baby was pushed and held, because it was in the birthing canal, which means it would have tightened up around the baby's shoulders, and literally the head would have come off. With them pulling against the body's own physical strength, it would have decapitated the baby. So it just seems like negligence on the doctor's part of either using too much strength and not being patient with the body.
Like, look, normally in other circumstances, I find humor. I mean, I see a little bit of it in there, but I'm being lenient because a child died, and I'm giving that respect. But the funny part to me is that not haha funny, but funny in an odd way. Like, what would you think it's to cover that up?
Yeah.
Greg, like, you already know what's done. How do you cover that up? You know, like,
especially go to the extent of like, hey, put it in a fake little wrap with just a head and let them think that they gave birth to their baby. First of all, that part
I don't know if they let him hold it or what they did. I mean, can you imagine, Brittany, if you're like, oh, I love you, and like you're holding it and you go to give it a kiss and its head rolls off?
But here's what I want to know is when did they show her the baby? Because if they're saying, oh, we have
I think they wrapped it up and they said it's not breathing. This is my opinion. They didn't specify. They just said they wrapped the baby, placed that on top so the parents could see. And then they left the room. So I'm thinking they're like, he's not breathing. Let's get him to the ICU unit.
Right, but then why would they be like, oh, we need to put you in a cesarean? So they must have brought the head with them.
No, you don't understand. They pulled the head out onto the table, and then they did an emergency. Within minutes, they did an emergency C-section on her with the head.
And they never saw the head.
She's not looking at it.
But you can't just do it in the room. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're giving a vaginal birth, it's in a completely separate room in a completely different part of the building.
They rolled her out there they rolled her along with the head.
So they couldn't have showed her the baby. So they were hiding the bed as they're rushing to the ER.
Yeah, they didn't show the people after the C-section. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh my God.
Where was Dad at?
And wrapped it. Go ahead, Craig.
Well, where was Dad at? They would have had to pull the head out and kind of like whoops and just put the head right there beside her, so nobody saw it.
I'm not sure if the father was in there. I sent you the article. It's on your cell phone, Craig.
Okay.
And I kind of read off what they were saying, and they were calling it, negligent, of course.
Oh yeah.
And
why do we have to start?
And that was the end of it. I mean, that was the main. That there's not a lot about it yet. They're still like in the middle of it. They're probably not putting a ton. It's family sues Georgia doctor after baby is decapitated during delivery, and so they said, the lawsuit alleges, but let's be clear here. But the thing, Craig, they didn't know about it. They didn't know the baby was decapitated at death until the funeral. That's what the other article talks about. That the doctor that did that the autopsy on the child said the head was ripped off. Then he put it up on the internet to show, like, in the whatever internet where they all the doctors look at different things or whatever. And he was like, it's decapitated. Why was the baby's head removed? Was it done in this or that? So that's where it was like, what?
Oh, so kind of like when Quincy got a hold of it, he was like, what the hell happened here? Why is this, it came unassembled. So that's why he was checking it out.
Confused, and they were supposed to do a funeral for the child because you're talking a full birth. Like, you're not talking a early little, thing. You're talking a full-size baby at birth. I mean, and you pulled the head right out. It just said,
oh, gee.
That's murder.
And that funeral must have been, like Daniel said down there, it must have been a nightmare. Absolutely. I totally think it would have been a nightmare.
God. My heart is with the mother. For the mother to have to go through all of that, through not only the whole emotional roller coaster that she's on right now, like, I can't even imagine. Like, if that was my first baby, that happened to me, put me in a sane asylum. I'm done.
I think a lot of women who have children, or even fathers like Craig who have children, would probably be in the same situation. But let me ask. So let's look on the flip side. Let's look on the flip side for a minute, Craig. Honest opinion. This is where it gets real. Now we're all basing our opinions right now, or at least Craig hasn't said much, but at least Brittany and I are basing it more on like, oh my God. So Brittany's basing it on an emotional level.
Yep.
So let's just say, for example, the doctor really wasn't using that much force, and he did it right there, and he admitted what happened. Like, it just decapitated. The baby's head just came off. And he was honest about it. How do you go about that? Because you're in the profession of delivering babies. Any accident can happen in anything you do, right? Working on bridges, working in the film industry.
I know that.
I mean, look how many people in our industry, Craig, where they're losing limbs because something happened. I got friends. You mess with alligators 5 times a day for 10 years straight, 24/7. Something's going to happen. So when you're delivering after baby, I think sometimes a human being can get into, and we can be mad at the guy for lying. We can be mad at the hospital for covering it up. But if it was he overdid it and he took the blame, blah, 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 whatever, but he admitted it, I think, would that be a different case than it would be lying? What do you think of that?
Oh, I think probably the emotions initially would be the same, of course. But I think if he admitted it, they would probably. I would probably want to see maybe if there was a reason why the head came off. You know, like you said, maybe he wasn't using that much force. Maybe there was some other reason. I don't know if there is or isn't. I'm not a doctor. But the fact that he lied about it and covered it up, I think he should do time. If he'd have been like, no, it was an accident, and then let his malpractice take care of it, maybe suspending for a while or something. He probably feels like shit too. You never know.
Yeah,
I don't know about now, covering it up and everything, but he may feel shitty about covering it up more than because he got caught.
I've noticed this, and this is just strictly my opinion, and I'm just going to state an opinion. It's an opinion. I know a lot of people now. I know there's some new people that I know in my life that are in medical, but I know a lot of people in the medical field that work in the medical field. I think they become very numb to that stuff. Babies, elderly, it's another thing. Like, Craig, when we're working with alligators and baby alligators are born, we love baby alligators. They're cute little shits. Sometimes we lose one or another one eats one or it dies terribly or something and you feel like horrible about it, but you move on. You're like,
yeah,
the business. And I think a lot of the doctors in the medical field get numb to it. They're seeing a lot of sickness. They're seeing a lot of, you know what I mean? It's you get like, oh my God, that happened. They're like, oh, they did that like 20 times already. You know what I mean? And I think,
yeah, oh yeah, because some people can do it and some people get numb to it. 20 years ago when I was in the front seat of a police car, I saw a kid that had drowned. And, when you're standing there, it's like somebody hits you in the stomach for hours and hours. But you got to, up here, you still think about it, but you got to go on. You still got a job to do. Life still goes on. I saw a 400-pound lady that had hung herself from a ceiling fan. And it didn't go too well. The fan broke, and what killed her, she hit her head, not the hanging. You look at stuff like that and it registers and you have feelings about it, but you just got to keep going. You have to go. There's some people can do it and some people can't.
Right. And I think if it was me in a professional atmosphere for the sake of the mother, probably wouldn't have said something right away to her in the state that she's in. I would have contacted one of my colleagues or a superior doctor to me.
Hi, Seth.
Said I've made a mistake. We've got to do this. We've got the mother's table and tell the parents what happened. Go immediately after it's all done and say the child's head was decapitated with the forceps during the attempted murder. Right away. Not when the woman's spread eagle on there with half of it hanging out of her and the other. I mean, there is a time and a place. And when Flavio and I will talk to a lot of let's just say young keepers about things. It's not the accident, which I don't believe in accidents, but I have to use that word. It's not the accident or the action of what happened. It's your decision right after the incident that makes or breaks you as a human.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
And that's that right there. You're either like Craig, you said it good earlier, you have a stomach, whatever. That's where you have to be professional.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yep, I know in this industry animals die. I've had animals that I've loved dearly for out of no reason. They just die or they have cancer or something didn't settle right or they were allergic. They're allergic to things. You can throw 2 or 3 baby Cayman's croc chow and they can die because they're allergic to what's in it just because they're allergic to it. It's not like things like that are uncommon. As for some people freak out, let's lie, let's hide it. Just tell the truth. And I think it's your decision afterwards. So the decision should have been definitely talked about for the family.
Yeah.
The exact time. Like, you don't look at someone in a car accident, you were a police officer, and they're ripped in half. You're not like, hey, your body's torn off, and the other part is at the end of the road. You don't do that. You're like, it's going to be okay. So he's coming. And I know you've seen that. I know you have.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just think that there's a lot of it's good to see you, Seth. How are you? I just think there's a lot of BS like that with that. So it's just sad. But, I mean, if you really look up that type of malpractice, there's a lot of that going on. Oh,
good Lord. Yeah. Yeah. I know now, when I went in for my surgery in March, it was kind of on the fly. It all happened fast, but it's like, what are you here for? What are we doing? All right. Yeah. I mean, they kind of double check themselves now because people were getting the wrong foot cut off, diabetics. They were cutting the wrong, and then they had to go cut the other one off and they had no feet and stuff like that. So they've tried to correct it, but it still happens.
Yeah, and you know what if think about you want to talk about the fall? What if there was no insurance in the medical society?
Hi, Merlin.
Mhm.
And I think lawsuits to doctors, okay? I do see some greasy fucking lawyers out there nitpicking stuff out of the sky to sue for, right? There's always
Yeah.
a to everything you do. And I think only certain things should be allowed to be sued for versus others, like outright negligence, you know, not minor. I mean, anything could happen to any of us. You could get the wrong thing or whatever. That's pure negligence. But some of the things were they slipped and fell. But I read where people sew an instrument back into a body.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, I saw where a doctor had left his watch inside somebody. I mean, that guy should never practice again.
Well, they sewed up when Justin's hand was bad. They sewed up the gauze, the dirty gauze in his hand. They just sewed it up with the rocks in it. He had to go back and have it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I mean, I know I'm getting old, but I remember he had bitten the hand at a show, and I remember they sewed him back up with gauze and dirt in there. And all of a sudden, his only got infected. They're like, they X-rated it or whatever, and they're like, you got gauze. And they took it out. He was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's rushing people through.
Yes.
I witness when I go to a hospital, like, do you have insurance? No. And they'll kind of shove you over here. All the high insurance people get treated, and they milk it.
Yes.
People who don't have insurance get treated water rate and put out. They don't get the special room, the TV, and the pudding.
I mean, that's what happened.
Dusted on top.
I mean, that's what happened though with Finn. Finn was 9 weeks old, and took him because he seemed like he had like a really bad head cold, heavy wheezing. Took him to the ER because it was after hours. So our doctor said, take him to the ER, see what they can do. Go to the ER. ER looks him over. They tell us that it's just a head cold. Give him amoxicillin. They're like, it's a head cold. Give him amoxicillin, which I was like, well, why am I giving him amoxicillin if it's just a head cold? And they're like, well, we just want to make sure it doesn't get into something more because he's only 9 weeks old.
Okay.
They're like, just keep an eye on him for the next 5 to 7 days. And then if it gets worse, bring him back. So I was a little uneasy. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. He's 9 weeks old. So the next morning, I'm watching him, and it's like he was struggling to breathe, and he was kind of bluish. And my mom, whatever thing we have in us when we look at them that we just like know or whatever they call that,
right?
I like looked at him, and I was like, something's not right. So I go out and I tell John, I'm like, something is not right. I don't know what's wrong, but I don't think Finn, I think this is worse. And he's like, well, the doctor at the hospital last night told us to give it a couple days. I said, I don't give a shit what the doctor said. I want to go to my doctor right now. So he's like, do whatever makes you comfortable. Okay, let's go. And he's like, but I think you're panicking. You know, they said basically just wait on the medicine. So I just ignored it. I got in the car and I took Finn by myself. We got there. I see my pediatrician. She opens the door, and they saw me rather quickly because they knew Finn was really small. She opened the door, and her eyes got rather big. I had Finn just kind of like propped up, like sitting up on the little bench for the pediatric tables. She opened the door, her eyes got big, closed the door. The next thing I know, she comes in with an like what Jeff is, an oxygen specialist. I can't think of the name right now. It's totally gone. And literally brings him in, and they're hooking him up to this giant apparatus. And she grabs me and she said, Miss Lily, I don't want you to, or Miss Barbieri, don't panic. But I just want you to know that we have an ambulance on the way. Your son's lungs are collapsing. And I'm like, what the fudge? And she's like, I want you to understand, we have it under control here until the ambulance comes. So she goes, do you see his chest? And I said, yeah. She goes, you see how it's pushing really deep in and then it's coming back out before he takes another breath? And I said, yeah. She goes, his lungs are failing. They're failing him. They're starting to collapse because what he has is a heavy congestion in his chest. He can't breathe. He can't get enough oxygen in. So I'm like, I can't get 2 words out. I call John, and I'm like, all I got out was the ambulance is taking Finn and I to the hospital. And John's like, what the F? And we get there, and they had to hook him up to all these apparatuses, and they blew out like 6 veins in his arms trying to get blood, IVs into him to get him on. And we were there for 5 days. Just because they just want to cycle him through. He'll be fine. Give him some amoxicillin. A 9-week-old baby.
And every now and then, though, you do. I know that the family has had a doctor that has worked for, I don't know for sure, but I think around 20 years with my grandparents and into the family. So they've seen good doctors. There are good doctors that are out there, and they're like, I remember one of them telling my mom one time, just give your mother a little marijuana. It'll bring her appetite back. He didn't go, hey, go take some, protozoan that could give you cancer or whatever the heck else it does. He goes, just give her a little marijuana and bring her appetite back. That's a real doctor. That's somebody who gives a shit. You know what I mean? Like, here's
somebody who cares.
My ex-mother-in-law, my ex-wife's mother-in-law, maybe I should say it that way. In February, she fell and hit her head, and she'd had bone cancer for like 10 years. And I'm amazed. You can live a long time with bone cancer, really, until your bones. I mean, it's not pleasant. It's painful, but nothing's really except for your bones. The only thing really bothering you, they turn hollow and they get very weak. So she fell and hit her head on a dresser, and they took her to the emergency room, and they go, yeah, your head hurts because you hit it. And 3 days later, she was still in immense pain. So her brother came over and took her to the emergency room, and she'd actually broken her neck.
Holy shit!
She had three vertebrae broken in her neck. And I don't know. I'm arranging my pills. Sorry about that. That's why I have to take my pills now. But yeah, she opted. She broke her neck, and well, there's an operation you can do. We're not sure if it's going to work, but we'll do it anyway. And it didn't work, and they don't know if it was a time lapse or whatever because of that 3 days. But she ended up doing what they call what they call it now, pain management. Basically, they put her in a hospice and doped her up until she passed away. Yeah, which was her choice, and that was her choice to do that instead of living with pain.
Yeah, I'd just rather die and not be in pain. I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But if they would have just taken the time to look her over thoroughly, they would have seen it and maybe not be in that position.
If you read, Brittany, like right now, if you were to go in and really read, and I know there's a lot of garbage on the internet. We're going to get into that in just a minute with Craig. We need to definitely get into what he talked about today because that kind of was a little chilling for sure, Craig. But if you look into some of the things that happen in hospitals, right? You wouldn't even want to take your family there.
No.
I mean, the story, like he just had one, we never knew. It's story after story after story of that. It's marketing. And I remember when my grandfather was old and they just didn't want to take care of him anymore, Craig, and they were just like, he's 96 years old or 95 years old, just let him die.
He's had a good life. Yeah.
He doesn't want to die yet, but he did. When he wanted to die, he died. But that's just their mentality on it. They're like, oh, it's taking up bed space. What do they care?
It should be the person's decision, too, not the hospital's.
Exactly.
Well, come on. You know who's going to ham it up now.
Oh, look who it is. Howdy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good to see you.
She wants to tell you that she got her first job this week, too. So
really? You got a first job? You can tell us. What is it? Come on. We can take a little break.
I work at PDQ.
You ever heard of PDQ?
Quick chicken? Yeah, I got one by me. I don't know what is more than pretty damn quick.
I think it's just, I think it is pretty damn quick. I'm not sure what else.
People dedicated to quality.
I'm sorry. It's people dedicated to quality. That's what it stands for.
There's a handbook you have to read. You have to read that handbook and learn it.
Oh, that's something. This poor girl had 21 pages of crap to do. I remember my first job. I walked into the Gatorland and they go, "Can you work a camera?" And I said, "Yeah." All right, you're hired. That was it. She's 16. That kind of psychological crap and all kind of stuff to do.
I know. I saw that on some of the applications. It's like, but then the people. I don't know about PDQ, so I'm going to speak about it every other place besides PDQ. Okay, but some of the places lately that I've gone that I've in our industry we frequent certain places. Home Depot being one of them. I like Home Depot. You go to Lowe's nowadays. What kind of fuck circus is that? I mean, really, Craig, what is you go in there and they're like, "Hey," I'm like, "Can I get this right here? I need this." And they're like, "I'm not in that department." And they stare at you. Or are you going to get some? Or are you going to walk around with your blue phone? What's wrong with you? And they always look like they just walked out of their mom's basement after playing 50 hours of Pokemon or something. They haven't even combed their hair. Their butts are flat from sitting their whole life from 13 to 29.
Right.
It's weird. And I'm like, God, you try to talk to somebody and then they're rude to you like you fucked up their day.
Yeah. I'm ruining their break time or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And I remember in the old days, we worked in them tattoo shops. They would just knock people out and throw them out the door. Nobody gave a shit. Nowadays, You can't even say the wrong thing or identify somebody wrong, and they're going to want to do a lawsuit, make a big stink. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen in the world anymore. And then nobody wants to do work. They just want the money. They just don't want to work.
Yep. That's a huge problem.
Well, if they don't want to work, they should go to our Lowe's because it's a ghost town.
They did.
Nobody goes there.
We have a Home Depot and a Lowe's about equal distance, and the Home Depot, you're elbow to elbow with everybody. Lowe's, you can pirouette in there and dance and all kinds of shit.
I hate it too now. I'm starting to really not like it. I go to Home Depot, dude, and they took care of me. I'll tell you a quick example. I'm real big into Halloween. I may have said it last time, but I'll tell you, Craig, I ordered this. There's a creature that I wanted that's made by that company that they distribute through. So I ordered it. It's expensive. Okay. A lot. It's not like, oh my God, you spent $100. No, it's expensive. So my camera gets them. They bring it up in some truck that they, subcontracted, and they fucking throw it in my driveway hard, blow it open, rip the side, scrape the side of it up, and then it's in the driveway on its side when it's supposed to be straight up and down. It's on its side with the thing flapped open. So I call Home Depot and they don't answer. So I get on their text. I start texting them. They got this little cube. They'll text you. I send all these pictures. I'm like, you guys need to get your shit together. What is this? They're like, oh my God, so sorry. Let me refund you.
No.
Your delivery fee. Hold on. So they give me $80 back. And they go, if you open the box, you have 80 days. If you open the box between now and then. It was funny. It was $80 delivery free in 80 days from the time I called to look at it. Because I said, look, this is early September. I'm not going to open this up yet. This is Halloween decor. They're like, you have 80 days. If anything's wrong, we'll cover it. So I was just in talking to somebody, and this manager walks up to us and says, oh, yeah, you guys ever seen this? I go, yeah, you guys just threw this. Look, and she goes, what is that? I go, I just ordered this from Home Depot, not from you guys. And she's like, bring it back right now, and I'm going to give you a brand new one. That's how it should be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Minutes, they scan it, take that one off the shelf, make sure nothing's wrong with it, load it up, have a good day, sir. She goes, I'm just writing this thing off, and I'm going to get a new one. They shouldn't have done that. So two things went from my friend. I'm going to start contracted to do deliveries for Home Depot.
There you go.
I can do a way better job, and I've got the equipment to do that. And I'll go to them over Lowe's because the way they treat you at Lowe's. Period. End of story. They treat you like absolute shit.
Yeah. Yeah, our Lowe's, I had to go buy a flapper for one of my toilets, and the lady there on her little computer thought I was nuts. And she'd never heard of the brand of toilet and a flapper, and I'm like, never mind, I'll just go somewhere else,
Yeah, you get a flapper. It's so ridiculous, dude. I went the other day and I said I need furniture. I need to move some furniture. And I need to slide one of my big aquariums, and I put those sliders underneath them, to move things around. And I go, do you have anything other than these little ones? They were like this little teeny disc. And he goes, no, that's all they have on the end cap. If it's not, but you can find a better selection online.
No, I don't want it online.
I go down the aisle, bro, and half the fucking aisle is furniture slides. Man, I just get mad at that. And this lady that walks around there looking like Gandhi with a bad wig, always asks about my water softener, has for a decade. Now, I know I look like everybody else, but how many fucking times are you going to ask me about the same damn water softener? Look at me. I don't want your water softener. And every time she'll stop you. Have you heard about our deal? No. I see you every other week. What are you doing? Softener. What is your deal? Are you that dumb, or are you just on purposely pissing us off? So, you just got to deal with that kind of stuff. But
it's funny.
I'm glad you work for PDQ, and I hope you make a lot of friends and have a good time doing it, because it's fun to get a good job for the first time. It's fun.
It is fun.
Oh, of course.
It ain't bad. $12.50 an hour to start. That ain't bad.
No, because when I started, it was like $285.
No, there you go.
Wasn't yours like $3?
Oh yeah.
$89.
When I started at Gatorland, I was started at $3.89 an hour. When I left, I was doing the show and all that other stuff. I was making $11, and that was like in 1989.
Millionaire, man, dog.
But I went the other day and looked at their jobs just to look, because I haven't worked now in almost 7 months, so I'm thinking about maybe I have to do something else. But they had a fancy name, but it's just like taking care of the animals is what it was. I mean, well, that's cool. That's something like $13 an hour.
You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's less than half of what I do now. So there's no way I could do that. But I mean, I would love the job, but at $13 an hour, we'd be living behind PDQ.
Hey, at least you have free chicken, and you can get it grilled, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they have grilled. They even have macaroni and cheese there. So that's Yeah, she's a big macaroni and cheese nut.
I've been to it. I like that place.
I like the flavor of the chick. I still like Chick-fil-A's flavor better, but PDQ is really good. It's better than McDonald's or anywhere else.
You know that secret.
What is it?
The secret for that stuff is pickle juice.
Don't tell me that.
They soak those in pickle. They do it. It's and you know who else makes them just like that? You're not going to believe me if I tell you. Racetrack.
Racetrack's got good stuff.
Crispy tastes just like Chick-fil-A.
Yes, Racetrack is good. I like Racetrack food. Their pizza's good. Their breakfast stuff is good.
That chicken sandwich is dead on fucking Chick-fil-A, bro.
Yeah.
You know, I heard some radio DJs on the what is it? It's in Tampa. I'm trying to think of the 104 The Rock or 102.5 The Rock or whatever. They had this morning show, and sometimes I catch it. And that's what they were talking about. Who has the best chicken sandwiches, bro? And I didn't realize how many chicken sandwiches were at every establishment. Like they went. Do you remember when you could go to Burger King and get the original Italian, and they would make it with the original? They would make the Italian, and they would put lots on it.
Yeah, and it was a longer chicken sandwich. That was good.
Happened eating there, but that was good shit.
Do you? I know I'm a little bit older. I think I got 10 years on you. But do you remember Burger Chef?
I don't know. That doesn't. Well, where was that? Was that in Florida?
Yeah, they were in Florida. They had good food. They had a hot ham and cheese that was better than Arby's. They had good. They had an actual fish sandwich that was fish.
That sounds familiar. My mom probably would remember that.
Burger Chef was good, and they had a mushroom Swiss burger. I don't think any other fast food restaurants ever had a mushroom Swiss. Boy, it was good.
You know what I remember? If everybody remembers in Orlando, does anybody remember Backyard Burger?
There's one not too far from us.
Bro, and they make like it's like you're out in your grandpa's grill and he's just slapping it on the buns, dude. It's awesome. Have you ever ate that?
Yeah, I've never been there. There's one less than half a mile from us. They just filed for bankruptcy.
They are?
Yeah, they filed for bankruptcy, so I have to go in there pretty quick and get one.
You better go do it because it's the same thing you did to me with that alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that burger, man, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck? These are good. Backyard burgers are good, man. They're good. They're good." If you like
just sitting there. It's in the parking lot where our Walmart and our PetSmart and you sit there in that parking lot and smell that stuff. I'm like, man, how come I haven't gone over there yet? They're always packed. I don't. Maybe that one's not filing for Chapter 11, but you know, they are always packed.
Burger Chef and Jeff was their commercials. Yeah, I think there was.
Yeah, they had like a Frankenburger or something. They had Frankenstein characters and stuff like that. It was good stuff.
What was that other place that gave you the 1 pound one? Was that like a Fuddruckers?
Yes, there's a Fuddruckers here in Altamont Springs.
Bro, have you seen that hamburger that's like the size of a tire?
Yeah,
dude?
it was a pancake. Yeah, it was almost like a pancake.
And
they had the bar. You ordered the hamburger. They would put cheese on it, and they had the big long bar. You go get everything else you wanted. Oh yeah, that was good.
Dude, that's awesome. I do remember that. That's actually really cool. That's a cool place too. There's a lot of good things, man. There was some good.
Folks, I miss Bennigan's. Okay, not
everybody.
Bennigan's.
Good.
Yeah, but you know, Atlanta, you miss Sizzler.
Sizzler. Yeah.
Ponderosa. Anybody know about that?
I remember that. That wasn't bad. $5 for a steak and a potato. That wasn't bad at all.
Remember the Ponderosa? I know. And y'all always went into the Ponderosa, and it was like the Sizzler was all cowboy based.
Yeah.
You know, man, I remember all that stuff. There was some good shit out there.
Most
of the kids remember Chuck E. Cheese.
We have a Chuck E. Cheese around us too.
Chuck E. Cheese.
She applied to Chuck E. Cheese. They never got back to her. So.
Nice.
So screw them.
Seth, there's still one in Kissimmee. There's a Ponderosa there still.
You don't
really?
On 192, yeah. If that's what you're talking about, Seth, because I think it's still there. It should be if like you're coming from like medieval times, it would be on your left.
What? Which one?
Ponderosa. It's still there.
I think, yeah.
Stop it.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's been a couple of years since I went down that strip, but I do remember there being a Ponderosa there.
It's like in a strip mall. Like if you see it, it's like
this
one of the Brian
Yeah, because I was like, I don't think it's a strip mall.
I remember a restaurant on 192 called Shells.
Yeah.
I always went in there because we had my buddy's parents like to go in there and or his dad. He liked to get all the you can eat whatever, like fried clams or whatever. And but every time I went in there, I felt like a clown was going to come in and kill everybody, dude. It was like grim, dude. It was like grim, and it would have like weird music playing, like like something in a Psycho movie, And I remember sitting in there like there's like 3 people eating here, and they're all old. Like, are we dead? Like, did we die on the way over? It was like the weirdest. There's atmospheres like that. Like, what was that one? If you eat there, you're just wanting to die. Long John Silver's, man. Fuck that.
Oh.
And those burnt hush puppies and shit, bro. What the?
I don't.
Not even high. Well, I'll drive right past that, dude.
No, I've never seen one that I would let my dog take a crap in. I mean, they're always dirty. They're just nah.
Captain D.
Now, you ever eaten at a Captain D's?
No, not that I might have, but not that I remember.
Oh, it used to be good when I was younger. I mean, you used to get a piece of fish like this, 3-piece fish like that, and the fries, and then all the crispy things that fall off of the. You get a big box of it. Now it's crap now.
Yeah, Captain D's. I've seen them, but I'm not saying that never happened. I just don't remember eating, dude. But Ricky Martin loves Long John Silver's, but that's cool, Ricky. He's living La Vida Fishy. But yeah, there's a couple places. Kurt likes, believe it or not, when Colette comes to visit, Craig, because you know Colette. Comes to visit, they like to go to. We call it the Greasy Spoon, but it's a Waffle House.
Oh,
I love the Waffle House.
No, I call it the Awful House is what I call it. I mean, I might as well when they cook in so much grease, I might as well just take the plate to the toilet and just dump it in because it's just skip the middleman.
You liked what you got last time.
Yeah, if you remember, what's that other one? Steak and Shake. When you go in there and get chili at 3 in the
morning.
No. I love Steak and Shake.
She's a Steak and Shake. Have you been to a Steak and Shake lately?
They suck, but the food's good.
They've limited their menu. It's all a kiosk now.
Yeah.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah, it's a kiosk. There's no salads there or anything. It's just a hamburger and a grilled cheese. Any combination of hamburgers and grilled cheese, and that's it.
Yeah, and it usually has a paper thin meat. They're like, you want a triple, and it's not even as big as a regular.
Yeah.
Deal really happens.
Gotcha.
You can go if you go to McDonald's and you order your sandwich, right? Like, say you want to cheat for that day, and you've been living the dream, and you're having a good day. You're like, I want a double quarter pounder. Fuck yeah, dude.
Oh God, yeah.
Listen. Go to the kiosk, and it says specify what you want. They give you the option to add patties, bro. I added 4 one time, and they made this. Oh my God, it was awesome. So if you go in there, you can get a double quarter pounder and a 4-stack meat, dude.
Oh.
Can you imagine that?
I don't think I could eat that today.
I don't think I could eat a 4 one either, but you can do a 3rd one. It makes it
sounds good. Sounds good.
You're really starving, and you're like, look, I'm gonna fuck myself up today, and I'm gonna eat a triple.
I used to love the Baconators at Wendy's, but Wendy's really gone downhill in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it depends on where you go. I noticed that they like to overcook their food and give you fucking straw for French fries, and you little dried crispy things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dan, go ahead.
The one place that I like to go that I hardly ever go to is Arby's. Not so much for their sandwiches, because I swear they put them on the floor and kick them around before they give them to you. They never look like they do in the picture. But I love those potato cakes. I'll get those potato cakes over curly fries any day. Love those things.
When I think of Arby's and I see it, I open it up. You'll get this, Craig, and some people will. But when I go to Arby's and I always get the half pounder because it's good, and I open it up, I always think of Larry Flint.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Stop it. If you know, you know. But yeah, there's some good stuff like that out there, man. Arby's is one of the good. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
I like how about you guys like Subway? To me, Subway's like a condom. Sometimes it's a necessary evil because it's probably the only one around. But I love Jersey Mike's.
Me too.
I love
if you guys want to spend $40 on a fucking sandwich, go to Jersey Mike's, dude. Get the ultimate $49.99, 16-foot long one. That's the best one you ever had.
They're good. I'll give it to them. I like Jersey
Mike's. I love the chicken bacon ranch.
That's mine.
I love that.
I love that.
I love rosemary bread. Oh, it's good.
Now let me touch on something real quick because I want you to talk about it while we're in the last 10 minutes of the show. Sorry we've been talking about burgers, guys, but I hope that helps. definitely where to find some good food on those long nights and what's life's about, but having fun, right? So I hope you had a good time with that. But Craig, talk about this. How many missing children?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
We found one dead child. Let's touch on that for a minute because I want to. Not that we're
Over in Hawaii,
but let's entertain it.
well, it's it's fascinating. It's in Hawaii. I saw a video on it today. The article stated that the school board said there's over 2,025 missing children on the island, and nobody knows where they went. So it's some people think it was a kind of conspiracy thing that for some reason they were after the kids. That's why the whole thing happened. I mean, well, but they never stated what they did with the kids or what they wanted with the kids. They do know on that day that a lot of kids were missing from school, and it was odd. It was like the first day of school or something like that. So I just found it kind of fascinating.
What you're saying is after all the fires, they didn't find any of those children. They're still missing.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of kids missing.
There should be some remains.
Yeah. Exactly. I thought it was interesting because I've seen a lot of things. I don't want to say debunking about the laser because when I first saw that, I'm like, well, that's a shame all that happened. And even before everybody was talking about the blue roofs and things like that, I saw some videos of people cruising through the streets, and one yard had like 2 lawn chairs in it. They were blue lawn chairs and they were untouched.
Yep.
And I thought, well, that's kind of weird, you know? And there was like a blue garbage can that was untouched. And before anybody mentioned that.
In a flower pot. And then the millionaires.
Yeah. And some roofs. I think it's Oprah's house. But now they're saying there's kids missing. So I'm like, that's, I don't know.
And what you sent me before all this ever happened. Now, this what the article said, that there was an article in why are celebrities in Maui painting their houses an odd color of blue?
Yeah.
I've found articles about that, but that was before the fires.
Yes.
To me, it sounds messy. To me, it sounds like if it was, listen, let's not say conspiracy theories are real, but let's entertain both sides. I have read about fires and electrical fires. Okay. You should be killing the power grid, but I guess they were not educated to the level of knowing that in their facilities, I guess, and they left the power on. So when the fire was going, when things were exploding and there was electrical wires, it was super hot and like it was causing melting and incinerating. You know what I mean? Because it's an electric, right? Now you got electrical current melting everything in its path because they didn't turn the power on. So that could have been it too. But let's just say it was, for example, that conspiracy that they painted it blue. Don't you think it's a little sloppy to do it like that? Like talk about it before that, or with as much technology that civilians have now? Do you think it's a little sloppy to go about that? Couldn't there have been a better way to do that if it is what they're saying? I mean, it looks, or is it just one of those things that are done on purpose? I'll give you some simplicity. We have a lot going on in the world right now. I saw, thanks to my family and friends who send me videos of Biden falling asleep in the middle of a speech. He goes, I'm tired now. I'll go to bed. I'm tired now. I'll go to bed. Right? Come on, man. So, or is this type of bullshit they're doing or talking about it as much as they do and adding conspiracy theories to our brains just to keep us from looking into other things, right?
Yeah, they always wag the dog. There's always a reason for wagging the dog.
To me, I would be like this. Oh, it's a natural phenomenon. The place is on fire. Let's use it. Craig, get it out there as fast as you can. Get it on media channels. Say that it was was started or this and that. Get it, and then they'll get away from us on this. You ever notice that, guys? And let's not forget we're going to elections again. And every time we do elections, aliens come. Trump did whatever.
Well, what I found,
if you can listen to Trump's phone call on September 11th, 2001, about how he didn't understand how those towers went down, the way they were, and the steel that was used, and he knows because he purchases stuff and he builds buildings. He knows, right? And that day, I have it. I'll send it to both of you. He's talking to this person. He's like, I don't understand unless they filled the airplanes with fuel and nobody was in there and they got it to this. And he specifically talked about the level and everything. And he's like, I'm just confused that it went like that. And he sounded he did when he's up making fun of shit now. So I know he was serious. He gave no fucks. He was just very curious about how that happened.
He's very matter of fact. He just says what he sees. I mean, that's just Trump. That's the only downfall that people hate about him. But it's also a nice thing about him is he's just like, look, this is it, black or white. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do, and whether you like it, I don't give a shit. I mean, that's just kind of his attitude.
And obviously, but in politics, though, man, those are like hot farts on a summer day, man. People don't like.
For sure. No, they don't like.
To be political is like, child molesters attend church every day and pretending they're Christians so they can lead the boys' choir. Okay, that's a politician. They're not in it to help you. They're in it to get their dick sucked, and that's exactly what they're like. Every one of them. Biden not so much anymore because he's a jackass. Doesn't even know what he's doing. I don't even think if he's pissing or shitting. They just go get out there and sit down and look smiling. He's just like,
it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment for our country because it's like it makes our country look weak. Those are the figures that we're supposed to have that are at the podium that look threatening, or like, I hate to say this, but it's true. But when Trump was in office, other countries knew he was like crazy at times. Like he could just be up at 3 a.m. one night and be like, F you, hit that button, get rid of it. Just because.
That round guy in North Korea was totally on a leash when Trump was in office. Now he's back to his old shenanigans and killing people and things like that.
You know what I found really disgusting is that, we did have a war recently. Russia did some shitty shit. And then that guy comes over and they shake hands together. But here's what I don't understand. And I want someone.
He gives Hawaii $700.
I know that our military, we're a serious military. I know that they have missiles that they can shoot right down and kill you wherever you stand. And like my dad said, just like they got that one guy, they shot the missile right through his window and killed him. Through his window with a satellite.
The cruise missiles, yeah.
Able to film these two bastards shaking hands, starting shit. There should be no reason we can't send a 3-foot missile right there and just pop those sumbitches gone. Because let's face it, that's the only time you're going to stop monsters like that. You kill them.
Yeah, you're right. That's the only way to do it.
I think Putin and that little Kim Jim potato face motherfucker, I think they act just like Hitler did. And isn't it funny? Everybody hates Hitler and was glad he was dead and what a horrible man. Those people are doing the same shit in today's times.
They just had a meeting.
They're shaking hands and smiling and enjoying little cups of sake. It's really fucked up, dude. It's like really fucked up.
But that's the thing is like they just had a meeting too. Like that was hush hush under a lot of like news stuff that was everywhere. But it was like maybe 2 articles covered it. But it was like China and Russia had a meeting to talk about.
Putin needs help because the fact that he hasn't been able to defeat Ukraine yet is embarrassing. I think that really showed a lot about Russia and their military that they couldn't defeat. Even if we're giving them stuff, the fact he couldn't go in there in 2 weeks and take that country is embarrassing for him.
With China over there, they're butt buddies.
Oh yeah, China and North Korea. He needs their help. See, my dad is my dad's retired. My dad's retired now. He's 80, but he was an electrical engineer, and he did a lot of stuff with cruise missiles. And my stepmother, she's a mathematician engineer. She's going to figure out trajectories for like the Ticonderoga and stuff like that. And he's told me for years, we could defeat Russia, we could defeat China, but it'll be a great cost because they have the numbers. They have more people than we do. Their military stuff sucks. It's not every time we face that or their equipment, we've won. It's not like it was with the Middle East, whether in Iraq or we did it in a weekend or whatever. We would have some casualties, but we would defeat them. It would just take a lot of time because you have to go to Moscow. You would have to cut the head off, and that's a long way to Moscow, a long way to Beijing. But we could do it. So those guys have got to stick together and they got to band together because they know their stuff is shit. And there's stuff that we have that we've never seen on a military field that they're using now, or they can. I know a couple of weeks ago you guys were talking about lasers and stuff like that. Yeah, we've got some hot pocket lasers that can hit a guy from a few miles away. He never knows what hit him. You light him up in the head and his head fries and he's dead. He never knew what hit him.
Exactly, bro. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you see him shaking hands and someone's got a video. Brittany, go ahead, touch on that. I saw you light up. You want to say something?
Yeah, because it's interesting. Like, so we're not really supposed to ever know what's going down at Area 51, right? And everybody always assumes it's all alien. But we know that over the years, we've uncovered that they do a lot of new tech there, right? They're trying to learn and utilize new technology there. So there's an interview that I actually showcased recently on my feed, because it was an interview with James Corbin, and he had Bill Clinton on, right? And of course, the question always comes up, when you were in office, did you look for Roswell? Did you look for aliens? What did you find out? X, Y, Z, right? And it was hilarious to me, because it was like, Bill, you just slipped up. Like, you just gave a very top secret information out, and now everybody knows where to go and like bomb or raid or whatever. And so, George was like, did you get involved with Area 51? And Roswell, he's like, yeah, we sent people to 51. And he like catches himself on one time, but then just puts it all out there. And he's like, yeah, because I wanted to know if they had the bodies through the tunnels, like, and I'm in the elevator. I mean, and he like stops himself, because one, we had been told for many years that there were no tunnels, no elevators, no nothing. It's all ground based, but that's not true at Area 51. It's multiple levels.
It's not true.
Right? But here he is, he's like slip up and then catches himself. But the best takeaway, the Easter egg that all of us were like, did he just give this away? Is he goes, well, Area 51 is for all of our technology where we basically are cloaking our aircrafts, to where we are learning how to disguise so that you can't see us when we're flying through your airspace on your radar.
Right.
So he gave away our location of where we are basing that cloaking technology, which has been something they've been working on since the Philadelphia experiment, but nobody really gathered where they were continuing the process. And here's Bill, James Corbin, and he's like, Area 51, which we have a photograph, oddly enough, and I tell you to go look for it. You see in Area 51, you see all the jets, and there's a jet that is mocking the ground. So the picture of it from the aerial view, you can see an outline of a jet, but it looks like it's mirroring the actual runway. And people are like, is this a glitch? But now that he's given it away, it's like, no, it's utilizing the cloaking. It's mirroring basically what the ground is seeing. So taking a picture from above, it looks like Wonder Woman's invisible jet sitting there in Area 51.
They do that stuff now with like the new 12 and 14K or whatever TVs.
Yeah.
They can put cameras on them and reflect you back and clearer than the human eye can see. Don't think the military's not doing that. But they even said, like, let's not. First of all, I got to say this because I was thinking the whole time you were talking. We didn't mention one group, the Germans. They're not a joke, man.
Oh no,
they're not a joke, and they're highly intelligent.
Thank God Hitler was stupid and tried to go into Russia during winter, or we all would be speaking German and eating, kielbasa's and sauerkraut. That he had a lot of stuff on the drawing board, that was serious shit.
Yeah, Hitler was no joke, and what they were into and what they're still into now, like what they study. Listen, man, Germany, they know some shit, dude, and I just really know that. When he was like, okay, I'll help you with the space or whatever, and he got us to the moon. That was Hitler's guy.
Yeah, his scientists got it to the moon.
Dude, that was like fucking German Tesla, dude. That guy knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, they were building those V5 rockets and all that, or their rockets, and it didn't take them long to build the most powerful rocket there's ever been to get us to the moon. I mean, really, it was less than 20 years, or right at 20 years.
It was fast.
Yeah, super fast.
Oh yeah, and the Saturn V was a big rocket. That was no joke, and it didn't take them long to make that.
No, not at all. And it's just interesting to me that everybody, I find it interesting, especially because in the field that I work in, the heavy debate of listening to people talk, especially like on Twitter X or X, whatever it's called now, and it's fascinating to me it's a realization that I've discovered in the last like 3 days, literally the last 3 days, with a lot of stuff that's been going on this side. And I sat there and I went, I don't really think the public's ready to have the government come out and say, we've lied to you, or we're not honest with you. Because there is still a majority of this, like the public, the society, that still really believes in grandfather government that's going to look out for you, and they have all the answers. And, I do think to a point we give them more credit than is due at times. But they're also very shady. And people think when you think of the government, they think only the White House. They don't realize what the Pentagon is. They don't realize about the black projects that are going on, that are being funded with billions of dollars that nobody even knows is in the Senate.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Senate's not even aware of what's going on with half these black projects, and it's a need to know. If you don't need to know, you don't need to know, and you just don't know, and that's it.
And that includes the president too.
Exactly. Right. And the thing is too, is I think that some of these black programs they weigh in depending on the president. I truly believe this. After a lot of the work and research I've done, I think they literally weigh in and go, we can trust him with this amount of information, but don't give him too much because he might slip up. And then there's some, I think they say, you can't tell him anything. He's too open-mouthed. He's on Twitter too much. He's going to do this, or he'll fall asleep and something will slip up. He'll stutter. He won't listen to what's going through his earpiece and he'll make a mistake. So I think they literally gauge, and I think they have been gauging for 80 years who they can and cannot tell. I think Kennedy knew some stuff, but he was very professional, knew how to keep things.
What do you think about Reagan?
Well, let's show you the power of the media for a minute.
I think Reagan knew some stuff. He was very professional within certain
Well, what if we told you that we were going to be invaded, tomorrow? That was kind of, everybody was like, whoa, what did you just say? Invaded by aliens. Everybody's like, whoa, what did he say?
Reagan's statement, man, he didn't joke around. He put stuff out there and people quote it to date and they go, I'm not making this up. He said this in the Oval Office. He said this in on a live feed. I mean, like, people are like, well, holy crap, why would he say this?
Well, let me say this. So remember, everybody had a problem with Tricky Dick, man. Okay. I read something recently I thought was really cool, that Nixon had been dealing with extraterrestrial, and he did a treaty with it. Right? That's been talked about for a long time. But now hold on. Now I remember
started it first.
American Horror Story. Last season. Might have been last season.
I thought it was the season before because you wanted me to watch it.
Well, it had the aliens in the beginning. Well, it had people drinking baby's blood. So that's why they were taking, all the Hollywood people were young. And so they would go to these towns and they would like feed on baby's blood. And then, they wouldn't kill the babies, but they would just suck the blood out of them and then return them, And that was what it was about. And all these actresses were like, 100 years old, but they looked 30. They were talking about baby's blood, which was a conspiracy, remember? I saw all that going around. And then the second part of it, so they split the story up, Craig, and they made it about aliens and what they were allowed to do. And when they started messing around with nuclear warfare, this woman like floated into the room. She really didn't have a face. She just had eyes. And she started blowing the heads off everybody at the table. And Nixon was like, holy shit, And then he's like, I'll never buy a phone. They're like, they made it, they covered it up. He was going to go and talk about what was going to go on. He was at a breaking point. I was going to talk about alien life. And then they got him for like Watergate and took him out and fucking ruined his life. That was a story I read. Now, what if that really happened, dude? What if that really happened? And how does Hollywood keep talking about that? And how do the Simpsons know everything that's fucking going on right now that we watched back in the 80s? And it's funny, but it's not really, dude. There was a laser fire with blue things that weren't burnt in the Simpsons.
The submarine. And the submarine had imploded and all that kind of stuff down there, yeah.
And then what about President Trump? And coming down as he became the president, dude. So folks, I know we're all laughing and we all have like religion or faith or this or that. Just, you want to know, just watch The Simpsons. I hope it doesn't get any worse because God.
Well, I just think it's funny that like people, I've always I've dabbled in conspiracy theory because, I hate to admit it, but like good 70% of conspiracy theories are true. And they've been proven to be true.
Conspiracy theories, it was invented by our government. Look at the back verbiage of conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but now we have
developed by a think team by our government to confuse people, to make them look crazy. Look it up.
Of course, but that's been around forever. People that had special gifts and stuff, if it didn't in an agenda or a platform in a society that you're trying to control as like a God, fearing country. And then you're also supposed to fear your government, and anybody that had any kind of abilities in the 20s all the way to the 50s, like abilities in the sense of, let's just say you're an empath and you just overly feel things and you can sense things before or know that that's happening, and you share that with somebody, they would just deem you like insane, lock you up and put you on these ideal medications or whatever because you're an issue in society, or like I look back and I think about kids with like even looking at Finn, and I sit back and I go, that wouldn't have been accepted at that time in the 30s or 40s. They would have considered somebody like Finn being abnormal. He needs to have all these testings. He needs to be shunned away from society because he's not normal. But over the years, it's like I sit there and I go, well, what is normal? Frankly, I'd like for somebody today in 2023 to look me in the face and tell me what normal is, because it looks to me that that's gone out the window. And I look at kids that are on the autism spectrum, and I go, I think they're the normal ones. We're not. I think they're the ones that they try.
They're normal too, because they know how to say no. They're rude to people when it's necessary. They don't listen to shit they don't want to listen to, and they live their fucking life. Which is why I said all the time, I hate school. I'm going to say it again in public, and you can get mad at me if you want. I think school is a fucking joke. I think there should be trade schools where people teach people what they want to do, survival and trade. And everybody, the senior member's like, well, you're not going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Fuck no, I'm not saying that. I respect the military. I respect my grandfather and people in there. But when I was in 4th grade, I wouldn't do it. You know why? Because they wanted to make us all the same, and I wasn't the same. I didn't want to be the same. I wanted to do this. And I have friends that wanted to do that, and we weren't allowed. They're like, nope. Got to do your arithmetic first. I'm not sitting there for 2 months and doing it over. I don't even want to come here. And the best thing my parents ever did, Craig, was go to the school, well, my mom, I should say, and said, don't send my kids home with homework anymore. If you can't teach them in 8 hours, you're not doing your job. And I don't want them stressed. Why are they sick trying to get this done for the next day? No, thank you. And you know what? I'm a crazy motherfucker sometimes, and I've been through some shit, but I live a good life. Because I got to be me, Craig, you know?
You're right.
Nobody tried to. Yes, I grew up doing the satanic panic. Yes, parents were scared. They thought everything was the devil. I understand that. You get through those things. And that's just people protecting their kids. But at the most part, we were allowed to be who we were. My mom got this ideology like, well, I'll pick battles and I'll allow this, not that, letting us do things like get earrings and, think we're cool. You remember those days, bro. We were all rock stars, Craig, in those days. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That was that's all we had.
You can't control
that, and I in school I just couldn't function there. Could not function. And I really do. I know I joke about it with Daniel all the time when he's working with me, but I think both of Daniel's definitely fucking prioritized. I'm more all over the place, but I know I'm on the spectrum. Probably more severe than I knew. They called me. They said I had ADHD when I was little. No, it's because I didn't want to do your dumb shit. So I didn't want to say, I don't want to look at this anymore. I remember the story about this fucking moth. I was in school and we learned about a cloaking moth, right? How it cloaked into the bark for like what seemed like 3 weeks. And they're like, well, we're going to talk about the moth. I'm like, fuck this moth. I just started drawing pictures in the book. My parents like, Troy's drawing. He's not doing his schoolwork. And I would just tell my mom, they're talking about a moth. I don't want to talk about the moth anymore. But the other kids was like, can I have ice cream when we're done? Oh, I'll talk about the moth. Those are future Walmart employees. 100%. The ones that work after hours, that have to have their cigarette break every 15 minutes, not wash their hair, or dress like in a space movie. We've all seen them.
Like I always say, though, if you look at it from a strategic standpoint, right? So if you're trying to build a society with a one-term agenda and you want to be the leaders of it, you cannot have a society that is like mentally mind driven in a sense of where they actually can read through the lines, they can see what's going on, they do their own deep dives, and what happens is that their foundation starts to crack. So they can plan all this out, and schools were put into place to teach one course of learning to everybody, so that
and it's outdated.
Learn that, right? It's inundated. Everybody has their own. Nobody has their own way of thinking. They're all taught the same, right? And they're all taught within the same rules of the government, the same rules of the law, the laws of the state, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It started in like the 1920s or whatever, to where it was like, no more homeschooling. Everybody has to be in school. Well, that's because they weren't allowing to have free thinking. Everybody had to be in school and be taught through these books. Yeah. And that goes in through college. Then you're being indoctrinated through a college teaching of your professor through the books, but that professor has been taught through the same process that he is now teaching you. There is no outside thinking. There is no, let's think out of the box on this one. Let's just, for the sake of it, let's put the book away. And now we know what the theory is, but let's play with this in class. You don't get those. You might get one or two free thinking professors that like to have fun with their class, but for the most part, they're by the book. And that is how the government would want it, right? They want everybody, the good little boys and girls, to be by the book, to come to the government. And in recent years, especially on the UFO side, there's a lot of heat and there's a lot of pushback, and the concrete is cracking. And so there was no disclosure place put in plan. There was no how do we react if the public starts to outsmart our game? How do we handle this? How do we come up with the next game plan? Because it's been set in motion now for 90 years. How do you undo a 90-year process that you put in place in the 20s with schools? So it's very hard. That goes for all learning outside of anything. You know, you're trying to figure it out of what's real, what isn't. I mean, look at it from Craig to Troy to me. Our history books have been changed hundreds of times because of the corrections and errors they've had to make in our history of relearning. Well, that was wrong. That was wrong. That was wrong.
Right.
We'll tell you about them all. So, but yeah, exactly. But my whole point with it is you have this organized thing now. You know, I know that people get offended at certain things, and I'm going to start off by saying people judge me by my appearance that I'm going to be a certain way, right?
Yep.
Either he must drink a lot, or he's a fucking racist, or look at him, he's one of those guys. He probably beats women, punches them around for a sunny delight. No, that's not true. Like, I know there's a couple guys that live around here that go to Publix that are probably in between me and Craig's age that dress like women, walk around. You know what I think when I see that? Good for you, motherfucker, because you know what? I don't want you to look normal. If you don't want to look normal, I don't look normal. I don't really care. If you want to look like that, cool. If you're an old dude and you want to grow a ponytail and dye it black and wear a metal ring, fucking A. Why do you want to be a mundane little plaid wearing polka dot and walk around like everybody else, right? No, I don't see it like, I don't hate them. I don't care. I see people like, oh, and you're saying what? You're saying what? Because we're not in your little line. We don't fall into your line. We don't fall into who you are and what you think. We're not wearing loafers and polyester pants, right? With our coupons. No, that's you. You're a fucking sheeple. We don't do that. We're different. People always ask me, well, I don't ever know what it is you really do. You don't have to know what I do. I'm not stuck.
Your business.
I'm not stuck. I'm just not stuck. I have a good life. I do look a little crazy, but I have a good life. I'm not dependent on drugs. I'm not dependent on alcohol. I don't have those types of issues. My issues are, what can I do the next day to have some fun and make some people laugh? What can I do this day to make some money? You give me a task, I do it. You want me to raise this? I'll raise it. You want me to do this? I'll do it. If it's forward, that's what we do. Flavio is the same way. And we think alike. We'll see the same thing and think alike. Craig's been with us. We talk. We all see the same thing. This newer generation has this idea. Now you have this old mixed generation of hateful people, and then you have this new generation of uncontrollable energy, right? I remember being a kid, like I had 100 power cords blown out of my chest, and I didn't know where I needed to plug them all in. I was just fucking everywhere, right? But I wasn't normal. I couldn't put on a pair of Dockers and go, hi, welcome to McDonald's.
No, hell no.
You know? They're like, oh, if I was forced to work at fast food and you did something to me, I'm going to shit in your fucking sandwich, bitch. And then you're going to eat it and I'm going to smile. That's how I think, right? So I can't work for fast food. That's not going to be me. So you have to look at this broad spectrum of life. I don't hate people for being gay. I don't hate them for any of that. None of that. So when someone comes with that stuff like, oh, you know, that's not true. And I'm saying it in public, live streaming it. That's how I feel. They can edit it or whatever they want to do. I joke about myself. I joke about anything. I have gay friends. We sit around. We tell gay jokes. It's hilarious, dude. Stereotypes are funny. The conservative ant. If you don't know who he is, look at his Instagram page. He's the most hysterical guy I've ever seen. I love that guy.
He's hilarious.
Right. He's a gay dude, which really shouldn't matter. Doesn't matter. But the fact that he's gay and he has a little bit of the attribute and he talks some shit, like, what the fuck, guys, right? I love that guy. If you haven't looked him up, the conservative ant.
He's here in Florida.
He lives right in Orlando, and he's hilarious, and you guys can watch him all night, and he's funny. So I grew up, and I did like skulls on my shirts, Craig, probably. I don't know. You probably did the same thing. We had long hair.
I had long hair at one time, yeah.
Yep, Seth still has her long hair. I've known Seth a lot of years, and we all had that era. That's when we grew up. But we were looked at as trash because we weren't conforming. Remember, we weren't conforming, Brittany. We weren't conforming that women are told what to do, and men have to go out and do all this. We weren't told that. You know, we weren't taught like it's okay, man. If a chick wants to work and dad wants to stay home, he can. It doesn't demasculate him because he wants to be around his kids. I think that's when I hear people say that, it's low key. I want to beat the shit out of them right there on the asphalt, dude. I do. Because I know a lot of people that stay home with their children that are men, and it's awesome for them. And they just and the woman wants to go out and work. Good for them. Or if it's a gay partner and one wants to stay home, the other doesn't. Who gives a fuck? And I hear that was.
for them, who cares? If it's
But
their
that's the way it was.
it works
That's the
for
way
them.
it was. We were taught in school. And if you
Oh,
look how
super mindful.
yeah, look how we were lied to, folks. We were lied to about everything. Pilgrims, Christopher Columbus. Think about all that shit. So now that it's really coming out, we're seeing the truth. Everybody speaks the truth, and they're a piece of shit because they speak the truth. We are human beings. We are primates. We are wired to hate, kill, conquer, and take.
Right. We just have to decide one day not to do it.
Yeah, look how many thousands of years we have been at war over whatever we wanted to be at war over. It's mainly over land and power. Think about it, though, right? Real estate and power.
Yeah.
There's never been a time, and then go, well, I'll just go one step further. Look at crocodile behavior. Look at primate behavior. Look at tortoises. Another male tortoise will kick the shit out of another male tortoise. He doesn't give a fuck if he has a family and he was coming through to get some grass for his little chitlins. He's going to kill the shit out of them because he walked through his street, because everything is wired to be that way. So now they've bent everybody to be this mush pile. Everybody's pudding. Everybody's a cup of pudding. Right? Just wiggle them all around. They bump into each other. Sorry. Don't bump into me, dude. Don't bother me. Don't get in my line. Don't sell me something. Leave me alone. Now it's like everything, and they're creating that. But the people creating that are the warmonger, hateful people. The same people that are broadcasting you should hate someone for being gay, or you should hate this or hate guns, are the same people that are gay, that do have guns and believe in it. So we all have to remember how big it really is. That really is out there. It's all a bunch of bullshit, dude. So when someone starts talking, they get killed or they go away. Now, are there aliens or they're not aliens, Brittany?
What?
Are there aliens or are there not aliens?
Oh, there's aliens. Of course there's aliens. I think
they've been into here a long time. I'm not saying that's a conspiracy. I think they're just another entity that lives like we do.
Yeah.
And we've been communicating. Maybe we're sharing resources. Who knows?
I have the thing about the whole space travel thing. To me, kind of makes me a skeptic, but I'm not out of the question. To me, if like somebody being like, or maybe they're more interdimensional or something like that, or remember that Brittany, that thing I posted about the redheaded giants, that Y files or whatever. And now lately they've had ones about how the moon is hollow and there's a race there living off our emotions and whatnot. I could see maybe at some point there was another race that was more advanced than we are that's always been here. But I think it's something that would be interesting to talk about. Now they live in the moon. If the moon is hollow, I don't know if the moon's hollow. I don't think anybody really knows the moon is hollow. But I would think more like they were already here, and whether you believe in evolution or adaptation or whatever it is, they kind of outgrew us, and they're like, well, we can't live here with these people. Now they're on the moon, or maybe they are still here. I think it would be a nice discussion.
Well, I'll throw
theories. I think that's why I say that. I love a lot of theories. That's a good one.
I will throw you a theory that I have now, that the Webb scope actually found this other planet. It's 2 times larger than Earth, but it is believed to be covered completely in water, right? Which means it has a source of oxygen and a layer of protection on the planet, because it is literally covered in water, in ocean. And it's 2 times larger than Earth. It would be considered habitable, so it's in the habitable space range for us, for life, as they put it, from the terms of what we would consider a planet would need for life to exist, which I think is also yes. But the interesting part of it is that it's only 245,000 light years away. The name of the planet is Yeah, that's not that bad. It's not really. If you want to look it up, it's planet TO1-733b, I believe is the name of the planet.
And you didn't even memorize that like a Bible scripture.
Yeah. But what's really fascinating about this planet, though, is because of the hotspots that I study with the sightings of UFO UAPs, our majority of sightings are always around water. It doesn't matter what country, what region, what continent it's on. They're always around water-based, whether it's a lake connection to an ocean or ocean-based. So if you take that into the conspiracy of other planets that people believe, or other solar systems that these races come from, it would make sense to me that if someone said we have a race of extraterrestrial beings that live within our oceans planet, like in our oceans on our planet, for the resources that they need for their own planet because their planet is made completely of water. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
No,
for me,
Yeah.
it would be feasible in my mind if something came forward to say, yes, we have been in a treaty and understand they've been living in our oceans. They've been taking resources to help create and adapt and make things on their planet thrive and survive because they're more ocean based because that's their planet. And I think it's really a fascinating topic to think like that because we humanize extraterrestrials way too much. We really humanize them. People fear what they don't understand. So when you think of seeing an extraterrestrial, your mind goes nuts. So you want to humanize it. You want to make them more like Nordics to where they're really tall looking, Norwegian looking people, right? To where it's more familiar
Right.
to us, feels safe. But in retrospect, if we lived on Mars, we would not look like ourselves at all, right?
No, we'd be shorter and fatter.
If we lived on the moon, it is dark. It is dark and cold.
I think a lot of Europeans live on the moon. That's why they're so pale. Isn't that why?
Well, no, because there's also with the atmosphere of the moon, there is no pressure, right? So we would be taller on the moon. We would be lengthier. Our bones and our structure would be more lengthy and long.
That's interesting.
So when people see like grays, in my opinion, if someone's like, where would you think grays would come from? I'd be like, from the moon, because their eyes would need to be much larger to adapt to the surrounding of the light sources that they're getting, and which means that they'd be more nocturnal. So they'd have more light source with their eyes, not so much worrying about the oxygens, not so much needed on the moon. In the sense of like how they would need to adapt and live within the crust of the core of the moon, if there is a core or if it's hollow or whatever. But the color of their skin would also match the atmosphere. Our skin tones are a reflection of what we eat and what we thrive on here on our planet. So I would assume it would be the same on the moon if grays were from there. So it's like, you just kind of start, you can't humanize them. You have to actually take into consideration the science behind what a being might look like if it lived on XYZ. You know what I mean? So It's a fascinating thing to think about. But I think as a whole, we need to stop humanizing aliens and extraterrestrial, because we're terrestrial only because we were created and made on this planet. We thrived, we evolved on this planet. But if some other life was created on a different planet, in a different solar system, in a different region, even within our own region, on Mars, on the moon, it's just not going to look like us. And we just can't fear that. We have to be willing to accept it. We just can't fear that. So it's just fascinating to me.
Well, here's one.
Well, some people say life could have come from Venus because, at one point Venus was very Earth-like and on its way to being Earth. But as the sun got hotter, it became uninhabitable. And some people think that, beings came from Venus. Well, let's just skip to this blue ball over here. Well, Venus may have been blue at one time too. I mean, it had water at one time. So let's just skip over to the Earth. And now you've got probably us that were here already evolving. Right. And these beings were like, well, wait a minute, we can't hang out with these people. Let's go to the moon or something like that and live in there. So I don't know. I think it's fascinating. I think, you have to smoke a bowl and really talk about this stuff.
I don't. And I talk about it all the time. It is funny though, because like, if you remember when we were growing up, how we learned about like the Neanderthal and then how it turned to the Homo sapiens and so forth and so forth. And then it wasn't until about like 20 years ago, they realized, oh, wait a minute.
They weren't
separate species. And Neanderthal were together at the same time and actually fought each other. So where did they come from? So it's just fascinating to me. There's all these different, and then of course we have different indigenous tribes that have vanished overnight. Thousands of people, tribe, have up and vanished. And what I find fascinating is that most of those have all created a temple similar to Egypt, like the Egyptian pyramids, they're all in line with certain constellations, and they all had their star people and their star gods. We're all given time frames of certain disasters that were coming to the planet, and they knew when they needed to leave. So they all had their Aztec and calendars and their buildings and their temples, and they all had this odd, strange, interwoven line of being fed information, and then all of a sudden some of these indigenous tribes are gone. Can
you just imagine going back 8,000 years when the pyramids were new and and the Egyptians had all this gold and the big temples. And can you imagine how beautiful that would be to see?
Brand new, yeah.
Just to see those people walk around in their attire, how they looked, they were advanced. There was no religions really back then. Remember that?
No, yeah, you just had one guy ran everything.
Yeah. And I remember that recently I saw a video of this guy. He was flying drones over top of the pyramids. And when he got real close, it like blew some sand away. Do you know there's hieroglyphics on the top of them?
Yeah, I've heard that.
And he's got the footage of it. You can find it. He flies over and he hovers and it moves and you can see hieroglyphics in the very top of the pyramid. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So what they were doing there was so advanced, dude, that I don't know.
Well, they believe too, because I have a friend of mine that studies and actually does all the tours on the main 3 pyramids in Giza. And they believe now more than ever through all the science they've been doing is that most of those were moved through sound, like how they were built. They used more
using vibrations to move. I remember that.
Yeah, because of the way, like even they did random testings. They're actually, which is so bizarre to me, but within certain chambers, they're actually like tones of sound. Like if you play a sound and it echoes through the walls, it actually makes an actual, like learning how to sing and having what was the word I'm looking for? Like music sheets, like sheet music. None of this was really invented until the mid, 14th century, 15th century. Was it? You were starting to get where people were starting to write out trying to figure out what notes were. So we're talking thousands of years ago. They knew what sound was what sound in a type of sheet music and how high the octave needed to be to vibrate, to move.
Yeah, so they had spaceships come down and use the sound frequency and fly away.
Yeah.
Ancient people say man was a lot smarter than I think we gave them credit for. But unfortunately, what happened, like we were talking about earlier, back then we would just go conquer somebody because we wanted, and you would wipe out a civilization. Stuff like that would get lost.
Yep.
And then you had like the church came in with the Dark Ages and everything. We lost a bunch of other stuff that they decided to lock into a room. So I think if man's mentality wasn't, well, let's just go kill a bunch of people, take all their land and enslave them, we probably would be more advanced right now than what we are.
I think I totally agree 100%.
Yeah.
They were probably more advanced than we are right now, and it just, it imploded on itself and has to be redone.
Well, I always said we were being fed information and we didn't have the Dark Ages for no reason at all. I always believed that
was the problem. People don't think on their own, Brittany.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, I mean, when you look at the advancements we were making and all of a sudden the Dark Ages, like it makes no sense to me. We had working toilets, we had computers and stuff in Rome and in Greece. Like you look at all these things, right? And then all of a sudden it's like just blackout. We're back to nothing. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, I don't know what to do, and it's like, well, I think the beings that were giving us information was like, well, shit, they're just going to kill each other. Let's back out now because this is not what we want. And then we were just like, wait, you took all the information. We don't know what to do.
Yeah, we can only think about technology as much as our little brain thinks about. We are very unaware of what's out there.
Yeah.
Einstein said, you can spend time and you can go between space and time by pulling it together and jumping through the loop. I mean, he came up with that. So somewhere along the lines, that must have been thought of before. Somewhere there's DNA memory. We act as what we're remembered, but we also do what we're told. And I think you're right. Maybe we give the government more credit sometimes than we should. And then if something is really advanced, they can come back and forth. Maybe they can travel in light years 10 times faster than we can because they're more advanced. Like Craig said, maybe it is another advanced civilization and they figured out how to jump between the stars. Maybe they have figured it out. We don't know. Look at what technology is doing right now. It's what we're aware of. What we can see in our TV and what we can use or go to fairs and conventions and see. Imagine what's even greater than we're allowed to look at for fear of losing control of the population.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think if you look,
we don't know what we could be doing. We already could have time machines. We don't know that.
Well, I think there's.
we don't know that, man.
I mean, science. I mean, like Albert Einstein touched on this in a lot of his quantum physics works, and I think that we look at our timeline as linear, and I don't think it is. So I honestly think it does bend on itself. And I think that if these beings are advanced, I firmly believe that they're utilizing space like a wave or like the ocean. And so they're riding that wave. It's not linear. It's growing and it has curves and it comes back. And I think that they've manipulated and figured out how to ride those waves of the curves within our solar system, or the way that our space and time work. And they're able to manipulate to where it is the folding of the sheet with the pencil through it. They literally know how to cut through space and time and get where they need to in the blink of an eye, because they are advanced. Their quantum physics is 10 times greater than ours at this point, at this phase. So I think that's why even like the theory of UFOs are time travelers is not really that far out of the window for us not to think about, because of the way that we can look at quantum physics in the way that we process UFOs and the way that it is. You have to add it in. But I don't believe.
I think they have to.
Huh?
It kind of goes back to what I'm talking about with the length and time of space travel as to why it's hard for me. Even with light speed, it would take forever. What is it, 8,000 years to get from here to Alpha Centauri or something like that. So
right.
And we do have theories for that. A lot of people goof on. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I love the original series. The rest of them, not so much. Yeah, no. But there are theories on time and folding space. On Star Trek, that's what they do. They don't have light. You never have, let's go to light speed. It's a warp factor. The ship stays still. But what it does is it pulls the space around it. It pulls space around it at incredible speeds. Unlike what would be warp speed. Because, like I was saying, my dad earlier, my dad's a freaking borderline genius. He can't tie his shoes. But my God, he's a borderline genius. He was saying that actually light speed, we know how to do it, but you have to have an inexhaustible fuel supply, and we have no way to do that. The closest thing we'd have is a solar sail, and that's nothing compared to what light speed would be. And we don't even really have a solar sail working. We just would know how to do it, but it's not feasible.
Right. And I think that's why at the time that we were seeing and catching these UFOs on radar, I think that's why we wanted one. We did know how it worked,
yes.
But we couldn't literally design something to fly through it. But now that we have these vessels, that's where the re-engineering is coming from. We want to be the first to do it. And like you guys mentioned earlier, Russia has proven that their advancements in their technology in war is weak, right? So obviously this isn't their tech. We know that China is very, very, very evolved with their tech, with AI and technology and things like that. But they have come out and stated, we have the same type of reports too. We don't know what these are. So I think if the U.S. has these in possession, we hold an advantage, because you're looking at ways of traveling much quicker. So if we want to go and try and colonize on Mars before any other country, we want to be the first to get there, with Elon, and we want to get up there and get life there. If we could figure out how to get there within the many months it would take for us to get there, think of how much quicker we could conquer space. The space race would be null and void. It would be done. America would win it. So, I think that's another reason why Space Force, which I have.
And we could have.
Yeah.
And we could. My dad quit NASA in the early 70s because they were putting the space shuttle on the drawing boards, and he goes, "This is a piece of crap. We will need a shuttle to go from the ground to a space station at some point, but let's build an actual space station, not that little kite they have up there now." And he honestly believes that if we hadn't abandoned the Apollo missions, we would have been on the Mars about 5 years ago. Now we're about 30 years behind.
Yep, I can agree. I agree with that.
That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, he quit in 1973. He quit, an $80,000 a year job at NASA because he goes, this space shuttle's a waste of time. No, we don't need it. We don't need it now. And that thing's built with 60s technologies, even when we were launching them in the 80s. It was, I don't know.
Imagine that. That was well said. And it was built with 1960 technologies and launched in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What NASA branch was he at? Was he here or in Texas?
And he was here. He worked for a company called Telautograph. They actually repaired most of the machinery over there. But he graduated in 72 from, well, it was FTU at the time. It's UCF now. And after that, he became an engineer and his specialty is like lighting systems. Like he's part of a team. He did the night lantern vision for the Apache helicopter where the pilot turns his head and the gun turns with the heads-up display. they came to him and his team and they said, Frank, we want you to do this. We have a plane called a Blackbird. No, back then nobody knew what the SR-71 was. He goes, it can fly on the edge of space. We're not going to tell you how fast it can fly. Well, they told him how fast it can fly. You can't tell anybody how fast it flies. And I want you to develop a lens for the camera that can take a picture of a license plate in downtown Moscow.
He's
So
like,
he goes, okay.
Right on.
Okay. See, now that sounds like a cool dude, man. I like to sit and talk with that guy.
He is. Man, if you took him outside right now and you pointed at a star, he could tell you what star it is, its atomic weight, how much light, how big it is, how long it takes for the light to get here. But like I said, he can't tie his shoes.
I still think I love talking to people like that, man.
Oh, he'll go on and on for hours.
You know,
All he gave me was the tying shoes part. I can't tie my shoes. I'm nowhere near as smart as he is. But yeah, he is a true borderline genius. He thinks he's 80. He just turned 80 this year, and he thinks he's kicking himself because he thinks he wasted his life. He should have got more into research and things like that. I'm like, Dad, you know, the night lantern vision, all the infrared systems he did, the targeting systems he did for like the Kliget missile, which is a tank killer. They told him how they wanted to do the weapon systems for the Warthog, which is the ugliest plane on the planet, and it shakes. They wanted, all right, you have to develop something on a gyroscope that's going to make it sit still so we can target stuff. And
that's good.
He's an incredibly smart man. He's an incredibly smart man, and he thinks he wasted his life.
Wow.
And he always wants to go further. You got that feeling, man. When those people they just can't, they're not comfortable being mundane. That's why I said they're not. You know, they're not like, hey, I'm going to go stock shelves. They want to grow more. Like you're never satisfied.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I learned something. And I'm done now. It's time to move on. I don't get so absorbed that it becomes my life. I don't want that.
Yeah, that's me.
It's not good anymore.
That's me. I'm like, yeah, that's fascinating, but you know, Green Acres is coming on or something. I guess.
Green Acres. But I'm serious. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I still love animals and I love being around them, and I've had fun. I've got a little capybara, and he's like a blast. So, but that's just for me. Now I want to go
for a while.
Get sucked in and burn out on it. Don't you get tired of talking about aliens, Brittany?
No.
I do.
Yeah.
I think though it's just because I really, really love it. Like there's just so much depth to it that I love, and there's just so much research that you can dive into. You know,
I want to be going, why the fuck are we doing this? What did we get ourselves into? I like that. You know what I mean?
That's what I say though when I'm in my field.
That's living right there. And I think of Craig every time I drive over a bridge.
Yeah.
And I go, said, I just want to turn around. I don't even want to go over this thing. He's like, man. I don't let shit slide on bridges. There's no way, because it is possible. If something goes wrong on that bridge, my name's on that paperwork, you know, it's like, well, let's go investigate this guy, you know, like. So if something bad does happen, if a contractor tells me to F off or something, I'm like, I put in my report. He told me to F off. He ain't redoing this. He says he'll accept this concrete between this station number. That way, if that bridge falls down or something, my ass is covered. Yeah, he said, fuck off.
Way to do it.
That's so awesome. Yeah. But that's kind of some stuff I think about. Like, man, Craig said that it gets kind of crumbly over here.
Yes.
Well, if you saw how they make roads or how we even test roads, well, what's considered a lot on a roadway is 500 feet and whatever the width is of that particular road. And we go to one spot with a machine that's about that big, and they drive a pin in there and they push the pin down in there and they push a button and it tells them if it's good or not. One spot that big within a 500-foot span. And oh yeah, that road's fine. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay. And that's why we have.
I don't even want to drive. I'm selling my vehicles.
Yeah, that's it. I'm walking everywhere from here on out. I'm done. That's it.
But I enjoy it. I do enjoy that. I sit in the truck and I watch people work. Is what I do.
That's a great job, Greg.
That is a great job.
PDQ.
Yeah, I might go to. Hey, she don't make that bad of money. I might go to PD. I don't have all that responsibility. And if somebody gets a hair in their chicken, I just get the manager. Then I ain't got to worry about it.
Daddy.
About any bridges falling or anything like that.
That's right. Oh, you don't like the way this tastes? Let me get the manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna be taking in my pictures.
Yep. The only people I have to really answer to, I have a boss, an engineer, and it doesn't matter what either of us say. If FDOT comes out there and they don't like something, even if it's built to specifications, yeah, usually you get your butthole tore a little bit there. But I'm like, hey, it's your money. If you want me that slide, that's going to my report too. But you don't put so and so from FDOT said, because then you'll never get work again.
You're
You just
right.
gotta like, all right,
Right there.
oh yeah,
Politicking. So,
yes, it is.
That's good politics right there. Good
Yep.
politics.
I just put per FDOT, this was approved, but I don't put a name in there.
Hey, you know what? That's the best way to go. I'm going to go ahead and end it. We've been on here for a good time, and we had some good information come out, and the stories were great. Thanks for everybody coming out and hanging out with us. I like seeing you guys. I like seeing the comments, and we have fun as always. Thanks for coming out to the Croc Show, and we will see you next week. Thanks again, Craig. Thank you, Brittany. And
Adios.
Yeah. Thanks, Craig.
to the rest of everyone, good night.